Hello and welcome back to the Game Room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love talking about? Games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them. Or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me. And that's not the 2,095 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. Holy moly, we had the biggest week in the channel's history last week. Thank you all so much for liking, watching, commenting, all the new subscribers. We officially have hit full monetization, so forgive me for the ads that have already been showing up on these, because YouTube does that anyways, but hey, at least I get a few cents. But that's not why you're here today. Today, I've been talking so much about Backlog this and hard games that. I wanted to take a look at some of the games in my backlog that I ain't getting to anytime soon. So if that sounds interesting to you, let's check it out. There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
Alright, so let's start off with a game that I actually did try playing not only once, but twice. Now, technically, because I both times I never actually got past the start screen, but I did put the game in my PS4 and then later my PS5 and download it and get ready to start it. I just couldn't bring myself to play it. And after playing Persona 5 Tactica, I'm probably not going to be playing it anytime soon, and that is Persona 5. I don't know what it is. It's either the art style or all the weebo-ness playing as teenagers, or there's something about this game, and I've kind of noticed that with a lot of these Atlas games. I don't know if it's the art style or just the implications of it, because playing through Persona 5 Tactica and having not played any of the Persona series, I really was not necessarily disappointed as much. Yeah, no, I was disappointed with a lot of the dialogue, the characters, the story. It just really did not appeal to me. Now, I know that game is not Persona 5, but I've looked into some people who like that game, who do like the Persona series, and it seems like it's par for the course of what happens in that universe. I'm just not that interested in checking it out, at least not right now. Honestly, I'd be more interested in starting off with the first Persona, and then going from there, maybe having it build that way, but just something that not likely going to get to, especially now that I have all these other games I've been adding recently that I'm far more interested in checking out. Now, one that I would like to play, however, with this, because it is a sequel to another game, I kind of want to start with the first game first, and I don't have it. So that's the main reason why I'm probably not going to be playing Maximo Army of Zin. So, Ghosts and Goblin had a cool spin-off back in the early 2000s called Maximo, and then Maximo Army of Zin is the sequel to that. So it's pretty much the 3D-ification of the Ghosts and Goblins series, much like they did with Castlevania and Mega Man, all those other series. These ones were actually pretty well received when they came out. I think they're a little bit collectathon platformer, but they still have the charm of the original games. Nowhere near as difficult from what I've read and from what I've heard. You still get your main character into his boxers with the hearts on it, because I think as you get damaged, you do lose your armor. That's a staple of the Ghouls and Ghosts and Goblins series. But I never picked it up because at the time I didn't have a PS2, and I actually picked up Army of Zin from a thrift store back in around 2015-ish, when I used to go to a lot of thrift stores picking up a lot of Xbox 360, PS2 games, and I've never run across Maximo. Now, it's not the most expensive game in the world. It's also not a priority. So it's one of those things where I've kind of been waiting to run across one. I just haven't. And because of that, even though I'd like to play the second one, which I might just break down and do, because I don't think it really matters all that much. It's kind of like playing Banjo-Tooie before Banjo-Kazooie. Like, yeah, it matters, but it doesn't really. Yeah, that's why I haven't played that and not likely going to. Now, here's one that might surprise a lot of people. I love the original game, and I know this game can be divisive. It has wonderful music. It just had a re-release for the Switch that included the kind of side story from the first game, and that is Chrono Cross. So this one I actually still have sealed. This got bought in that same Square Enix sale where they were selling these for like $2-3. I think you can even still find some of these sealed. And I just have no interest in, when I have so many other PS1 RPGs that I still want to check out, Chrono Cross does not rank the highest. You know, I want to play Valkyrie Profile. I want to check out Grandia. I want to check out the Wild Arms series. I want to check out Thousand Arms. Chrono Cross, as much as I'd like to hear the soundtrack, and I do know people love it, a lot of people don't like it too. And so, you know, you got to weigh that into your decision making. And even that, with it being sealed, you know, I'm probably more likely to play the one on Switch, but is it going to be the same? I kind of like my chunky graphics with my PS1, so who knows? It's just one of those ones where it's kind of caught in PS1 limbo, because I have so many other games on that system that I'd much rather start playing before it. But I'll get to it one of these days, you know, especially with everything going all digital. Who knows? Luckily, I got decades of games to play that probably should still keep me busy. All right, here's one that I do want to play. So I was a big fan of the Assassin's Creed series when it came out. I bought the first 6 entries, and I played every single one of them to completion. I never 100%ed it because I think that's insane. But I played Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, 3, and Black Flag. I'm one of those weird people that actually likes Assassin's Creed 3 as well. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because I like the American Revolution, but I enjoyed it. Recently picked up Rogue, but the next game to come out, I stupidly got for the Xbox One. And my Xbox One, it doesn't connect to the internet anymore. The disk drive has failed in the past, and I just don't really want to play it. I'd much rather play it on the PlayStation console. So Assassin's Creed Origins is kind of just sitting there, you know, lambasting in purgatory. And because of this, I also have not played Odyssey, have not played Valhalla. I'm sure I'll pick up Mirage one of these days. And I skipped Unity and Syndicate, which I got to pick up those someday just to have the whole series. But Origins, I really want to check out. I would love to see how they handled ancient Egypt. I hear the main character is an interesting one. And I don't think there's any of that animus BS where it's sending you back and forth. I'm sure there is, but it's not what Assassin's Creed's about, in my opinion. But I just haven't, and I hear it's a lot more RPG-like with so many games now shoehorning in RPG elements. I'm a little scared going into an Assassin's Creed that now has that piled onto it. Now, it is an earlier game, so maybe it's not as bad. But just, yeah, not one because of being on the Xbox. Maybe I should just break down and buy it for the PS4 and play it that way. But because of all that, not likely coming off the backlog anytime soon. Now, here's one that I would like to play today if I had an option. And the reason why I can't play it is because it's my sole Sega Saturn game. I don't even have a Sega Saturn. It's a Japanese Sega Saturn game. And even then, it's not translated. And that is Solo Crisis. So if you have no idea what the hell this game is, this is made by Quintet. Quintet are the people who made ActRaiser and the Gaia trilogy. And this was a game that almost looks like a mix of Populous with a little bit of a tactical RPG built into it. Kind of like the overhead sections from ActRaiser, if there then was a intricate party-based combat system when the evil enemies would come through. I've only been able to watch footage of this and read articles, and it looks incredibly interesting with the way you have an overworld and then an underworld and then portals. I think of like Stranger Things, I guess, where it sends monsters from the underworld to the overworld, and you can have your characters travel to the underworld, fight, get experience, and then travel back. And I think there's permanent death with your villagers, and you're slowly building up a world and a town, and then sending them off. It looks interesting. It looks fun. It's something I'd like to check out. Maybe one of these days I'll have a way of playing it, and if there's a patch, though I don't know if there's really that much needing translating in it, other than, you know, you have god powers going around leveling hills and making mountain like storms and thunderbolts and things of that nature. But still, interesting one. I'd like to check out. Alright, so another one that's on the Xbox One, and I played all of the series. I played the first 4 games, even the spin-off a little bit, and then I just kind of cooled off of it. I really cooled off the Xbox One majorly around 2015. It became the thing I would do my my P90X workouts on and use it for a DVD player. Other than that, I didn't use it for anything. And when they finally came out with Gears of War 5, which they shortened to Gears 5, which is so stupid. I hate it when they do this with sequels. It's Gears of War, not Gears. Yeah, I get we shortened it as Gears, but anyways, Gears 5, have yet to play it. I know they focused on, I can't remember what her name was, but she was introduced in Gears of War 4, and it mainly was focusing on her. Marcus is back. Some of the other characters. I really didn't know much about it when it came out. I was pleasantly surprised with Gears of War 4. It was for a series that allegedly wrapped up, and then with Gears of War Judgment, where it was such a kind of a meh title. Gears of War 4 was a solid entry. It brought it back. It unwound everything that was done, unfortunately. But you have to, and I mean, I guess you have to in order to keep the series going. They introduced a new enemy type, which really was just the Locust with a new name, but whatever. So, Gears 5, though, I don't know, there wasn't much draw to check it out. The story kind of got stale, and with them baiting and switching Marcus so much and all the other classic characters, like, I just wanted to see the original team continue on, and then they introduce his son and this new character, and then they switch it to another new main character, and I don't know, it's just one of those things where wasn't that interested to begin with, and with it being stuck on the Xbox One, maybe when I get a Series X one of these days, if I ever do, now that they're phasing out the disc drive, so I probably should get one of those before they become super expensive. But I don't know. Let me know. Have any of you played Gears of War 5? Gears 5. Should I check it out? And I'm sure there's a Gears 6 coming out eventually, because I'm pretty sure they were making a trilogy, but I have a feeling based on kind of the reception of Gears 5 and how so many of us didn't play it, maybe that's why they've been dragging their feet. All right, so here's one that is the third of a spirituals kind of trilogy that they aren't related, but they are related. There's Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and then the last one is The Last Guardian. And I've had this sealed so long. This was a Christmas present back in, I want to say, 2017, 18, 9. I don't even know how long. This game was in development hell for so long. And part of why is I'm just worried what happens to the really nice creature that's friends with the boy. In these type of games, you just know that by the end of it, he's gonna die or be reborn or get the Groot treatment or something of that nature. And I don't know if I have it in me to spend 10 hours getting friendly with this weird beast creature only to have it die at the end. Now, I'm not saying that's gonna happen. I just have a feeling that's gonna happen, especially based on playing Shadow of the Colossus and then what I know of Ico, that there's just no way these particular developers aren't going to do that to us, because they love their emotional storytelling. But maybe someday I'll push past it and finally check it out. But that's kind of where I'm at with that one. Okay, so here's one that I picked up years ago because it has a very interesting concept that, while I love the concept, I seem to never actually play a game that has the concept in it. Avenging Spirit has the same thing. So it's called Geist, and you play as a disembodied spirit that can go and possess different characters. And then once you possess the characters, you can go around and proceed and do special abilities because you have that character, kill people, translate into other ones, and just sounds like a good old fun time. There's a game on the N64 called Space Station Silicon Valley where you can take your microchip out of robotic animals and go into other robotic animals. So I guess that's the only type of game where it has this mechanic that I've done it. And I remember when Geist was coming out, but I feel like it launched after I was in college and I kind of lost track of the gaming scene for a time. And then only recently, like in the last 4 or 5 years ago, I heard someone talking about it and saying this was a quote-unquote hidden gem you should check out. It's still fairly cheap, at least it was back then. I don't know how expensive it is now. But it is just one of those things where the GameCube is not the best console for me to play right now. My HDMI solution for the GameCube is nowhere near as great as the one I have with the RetroTink 5X. Maybe I should just be running it through the 5X. I'd like to get the component cables, and I've just kind of cooled off on playing GameCube right now. Maybe I'll get to it one of these days, but that is definitely one that, yeah, it's not likely to get played, but if I do get a hankering for some GameCube games, that one's definitely going to be towards the front of the list. Okay, so one that it's kind of ironic because they just announced a new version of this game, which I hate when companies do that. It's Shin Megami Tensei 5, and the only reason I picked this up is because it was out for a month, and then they suddenly had it discounted to, I want to say, $30. And it was one of those things where I've never played any of the Shin Megami Tenseis. I did not know it was related to the Persona series, but it also just seemed like, an Atlas release. It's heavily discounted. This game's probably not going to get that much cheaper than $30, which it really hasn't. I mean, I think so now. Yeah, I've seen ones for maybe $15, $20, but that's years later. So I picked it up. without knowing anything about the game. Now, in the game, it's kind of a thing where you are fighting with, you take control of demons almost in a Pokemon way, and then they fight on your behalf, and then you can fuse them together and spread their things out to other. Like, I don't like the mechanic. That's part of the reason why I didn't like Persona 5 Tactica. I don't like losing things I get and then experimenting and merging them otherwise. Like, if I have something that works for me, I don't want to then say, like, okay, let's take the thing that works for me and go pair it with this water lily thing, and then, oh, I get a completely different character. I know some people enjoy that. I don't, and that's probably why I haven't gotten into these series. Same thing with the Disgaea. I don't know, it's funny, I just don't like these games, and yet I keep giving them a shot. Alright, now here's one that is another one that I would probably play today if I had a way to. So this is from Project Retro Games. It's a game called Aon Kagua. Aon Kagua. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Aon Kagua, but it's a PlayStation 1 release and plays on a modded PS1. So it won't play on a regular US PS1. You need one that's been modded, or I think you need a Japanese system or some sort of thing to play these. But I just wanted it for the collection because it is like a Twin Peaks mystery point-and-click adventure with tank controls, and you have 5 different survivors in the mountains, and crazy things are going on, and it just seemed like a very interesting game and something that I wanted to give a shot to. Recently, in the last couple of years, I've been looking more and more into the PS1 catalog for games that came out in Japan that we never got. So there's this game, for instance. There's a game called Mizerna Falls. There's the Planet Leica. There's Brightus. There's Tear Ring Saga. So a lot of games that we didn't get. And the nice thing about Project Retro Games is they go ahead and they translate them, or they get the translations. They put them in these really nice packages. Now, I'd prefer if it wasn't a long box. I know that there are long box collectors out there. I like the jewel cases for my PS1 collecting. But I'm not going to complain too much because I know eventually I'm going to get some way to play these games, either through an analog PS1 or if I ever get a Polymega or something of that. Like, it's got to come soon, right? Right? I don't know. But yes, game that I'd love to play. I just don't have a way to play it at this time. And if I ever do, that is definitely one that I'm going to jump onto immediately. So here's one that I picked up in Colorado in 2018. Mainly because I wanted to buy something that weekend. I kind of had not made any purchases, and the last store we went to is when I went to my buddy Donovan's wedding, and I hung out with my friends with Wes and Mike Tendo, and so I picked up Blue Stinger on the Dreamcast. I never play the Dreamcast. I don't have the Dreamcast hooked up. I have a Dreamcast, and other than Dynamite Cop on the Dreamcast and a little bit of Code Veronica, I've always regretted buying it. But Blue Stinger, I think I got this for $10, and it was a survival horror game. It looked like it had tank controls, and I've heard a lot of people say it's one of those games where it's so bad it's good. So I just wanted to take a chance. Figured, let's beef up the Dreamcast collection a little bit and go from there. Honestly, I don't know what I'm doing with this, because I have no desire to play the Dreamcast, and I don't like it. I don't like the controller. But one of these days, maybe they'll have the analog Dreamcast, and then I'll finally start playing it then too. Do you guys like how the controller on the Dreamcast has the power cord at the bottom? I mean, that thing pisses me off. The VMU save method pisses me off. It's such a clunky, annoying system. And I know it has its fans and its fanboys, but I just am not one of them. So that is why I'm not likely going to get to Blue Stinger anytime soon. All right, last two. So let's talk about a Metroid game that I would like to play, but on the hierarchy of Metroid games, I want to beat first. Even though I've beaten Metroid 3 and Metroid 5, if we're thinking of it that way. Metroid 4, which is called Metroid Fusion. For some reason, I really want to play Zero Mission before I play this, and I also would like to check out Samus Returns on the Game Boy. And just playing Game Boy Advance games in general for me has gone back to being an uphill battle. I had a good brief 7-8 months where I was really getting down on some Game Boy games, but unfortunately my analog pocket showed up a little too late, and I'm out of that sphere now. Now I'm kind of leaning more towards the Xbox 360 era. PS1 has been strong, but man, I'd like to play Metroid Fusion, but I also have an inkling that they got to be doing a remake of that eventually, right? That one's got to be next. They've remade every other Metroid game outside of Super Metroid, so I don't know. that's where I'm at with that. Let me know if I'm making a mistake. And then lastly here, so this is a bit of a collecting mistake I made. So my buddy Avalanche Jared was covering a game, like I think it was a game series or some sort of things full of underrated games. And one of the ones he talked about, which he talks to death about this game, and it just fell down, and it is Ring of Red. So I picked up a complete copy of it back in 2018, 2019, but I foolishly didn't realize I bought the Japanese version. So yeah, this is the complete Japanese copy of Ring of Red. Well, me and my foolishness was like, well, if I have the case for it, why don't I just buy the game? That's all I need. So I went ahead and I bought a loose copy of the disc. So I do have a copy of Ring of Red for PS2, but it's just the disc. And I'm not sure why. I want to check this out. Every time I talk to Jared, he's like, you got to play this game. You will absolutely love it. It's a mech-based game that takes place in sort of a World War II setting. And it looks very interesting the way the combat works, where you're having to take risk reward versus taking shots, and you have to compensate for your reload. And you know, it's like first person view when you're shooting from the mech, and there's just something about it that just doesn't really pull me in right now. If I'm going to go to the PS2, I want to check out something I haven't played, like Bully or Eternal Poison or Stella Dwa or something of that nature. You know, give me a tactical game. But there is still, and also part of it's because I'm so ashamed that I don't have it. Damn, I got this stupid Japanese version, then I have a loose American disc. And it's not super expensive, but it's expensive enough. I think it's like $40 or so for a complete copy. Anyways, yes. So that one, because of my shame, is likely going to stay on the backlog. So those are a bunch of games that for various reasons I'm not getting to anytime soon. Let me know about your games you're not getting to soon. Thank you guys again. Thank you all so much for checking out the videos. I had a lot of great comments in the last video. Once again, I apologize if I can't get to all of them. Like I've stated, for some reason it seems like the algorithm doesn't like it when I engage with my fans. So maybe we'll open up a Discord or something where you guys can ask me questions. Because there's some, and also thank you for going back to the old catalog. Like, goodness, Model James is going through all of them and having great comments. It's funny, I love the one about Gladius, and then he mentioned a game called Eternal Eyes. So I have not played Eternal Eyes, but I actually bought a memory card last year that had a save file for Eternal Eyes. And I looked up and found out it was a tactical RPG. So I picked it up. I know it's terrible. I've heard it's terrible. I got it for like $10. So that's one I definitely want to check out. I'll probably cover a tactical RPG video one of these days. I picked up a bunch of them lately, so I want to actually try out some of them before I talk about it, because I like to know what I'm talking about on some of the games. Sometimes I don't. Like in this video, apologies that I'm not super familiar with a lot of these because I haven't played them. But anyways, that's what you get for this week, guys. It's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.